Hello, those that walk on 2 feet with 10 toes. I'm Shane.
Shane. And I'm your recapper, Shane. Welcome to Harken back. Having arrived in Addersfeld amidst some unpleasant circumstances, our heroes, with the aid of a local temple leader, sussed out that a certain red wolf was up to no good. The extent of its history and potential future, however, was uncertain.
The red wolf was son of the archfey Dalmak and father to the fallen storm. Right,
So there's another kid. Do you think that the fallen storm is like a metaphor, or do you think it's like an actual lineage?
The fallen storm isn't much of a moniker. It sounds more like a process.
Mm-hmm.
Father to the fallen storm. Son of the archfey. So archfey Dalmak, he or she or they, I don't know. The only context I know of them is as part of a broader collection of archfey that were, well, expelled from the land. It's more of a, not to be too on the nose, but more of a fairy tale than any sort of detailed history that I've read. But if that is historical fact, then it wouldn't be too much of a speculation to think that there would be some vengeance that they wished for on this land.
So should we be worried about Corvin Amberstone?
Nah, I'm sure he's fine. Yes, Olma, we should be worried about Corvin Amberstone. He had an empty casket. There was a great hulking beast walking around in the forest. Yes, we should be worried.
Okay, well, I only ask because I'm just kind of confused now about next steps.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, wrapping things up with the Ironlight Collective, Flynn, accompanied by Shreya, encountered a misanthropic tiefling, known to others as Zergath, in pursuit of a bounty. Narrowly avoiding a confrontation, Flynn received private orders from his Ironlight superior, Melarue, to bring none other than his comrades, March and Olma, in for questioning.
Melarue wants me to find them and take them here, and I don't know what's gonna happen to them if I do that, but it also gives me a point towards being a sentinel, and I want to be a sentinel, so I don't know what to do, chat. What should I do?
Just in, number of days, how long have you known these people?
A few days? A week, maybe?
Okay. Now, how much time? And let's measure this in years. How many years have you wanted to be a sentinel?
More than a week.
Unaware of Flynn's crisis, Shreya went to get some fish from James the fisherman's stall, only to find it abandoned, with nothing but a threatening note and old fish to speak for him.
I'm going to pick up a fish and then hang the silver pieces where the fish was hanging before.
As you do that, you put down the silver pieces, and you see in the wall, next to where these fish are hanging, you see a knife that's been buried deep into the wall.
Oh.
With a note hanging from the knife. There's a half piece of paper that's been pinned to the wall with a knife.
Well, yeah, read that.
On it, you see scribbled in sort of messy handwriting, Olma and March found your friends, abandoned bakery in the slums, come alone.
The team rushed to James's aid.
Pull the note off the wall, and I'm going to stuff it in my little bag. And then I'm going to eat my fish. And I'm going to grab another fish and attach more silver pieces because this freaked me out and I want to eat more now.
Okay.
The team rushed to James's aid.
Across the street, Flynn, you, what kind of pastries are you getting?
I get the same old that I always get. I get 2 lemon-filled pastries.
Well, in D&D, there's a little bit of there's some wiggle. There's time is kind of...
Oh, by the way, check it out. And I'll hold my forearms up.
Cool. Does it hurt? Huh? And I touch them.
No.
Oh.
They did, though.
Well done.
You commission special jobs. I want to try and essentially take these and just attach them to my backpack. So it's like I have my bow on one side and then my sword attached to the other side, left and right on the sides of the backpack, and just have them hanging there. Like that. Could you do that? Is that quick? Something quick you do?
Yeah, I can do that in 2 days.
2 days.
Our heroes headed to the abandoned bakery, and through pretty much sheer luck and the grace of our DM, secured James's safety. But Oma and March had walked into the clutches of their enemies, and to prevent their capture, Shreya opted to draw first blood. The ensuing battle had more wrinkles than expected, though, as March and Olma's old pal Zergath had a bit of an identity crisis.
You look up, and he looks back at you, and he looks a little worried. And he reaches up, and he sort of reaches for his neck. And now at this point, you can see that one of these crystals, that the one that's embedded in his neck, is beginning to vibrate and shake the skin around it. And you can see, after a moment, it bursts in his neck. And the same black smoke and black wisps begin to flow out from this crystal. And they start to flow around the room, and they find its way around Zergath's head. And it makes this cloud of black smoke around his head as all of a sudden the smoke is pulled in through his nose and his mouth and his eyes. And he takes a big breath. And you hear from his mouth, Oh, okay then.
While our heroes fought their hardest, the entity once known as Zergath had a power they had not witnessed.
As the rage then returns to its body, this tiefling now reaches up into the air, and a dull fire begins to glow around his hand. And you can see this fire builds after a second as he kneels down and plunges his hand into the ground. And it looks like it tears the fabric of reality as he plunges his hand down into the ground. It doesn't break the wooden floor, but it warps reality and opens into, you can see this flaming chasm in the ground now, only about 2 feet wide, but he reaches his hand down into it and pulls forth from it this flaming maul. So that first hit is 7 points of bludgeoning damage and 6 points of fire damage. That second hit, it's going to be 9 points of bludgeoning damage and 12 points of fire damage.
So I'm going to basically fall back to my knees and look up at Zergath and go, I never fucking liked you, and I am unconscious on the ground.
But before things could go from bad to worse, another being appeared, blinded and deafened most of the team, and called for Zergath and whatever being was possessing him to depart. Shaken by the close call, it was time to take a hard look at why Oma and March were being pursued. Interviewing the pair and the now tied-up Kerr, Zergath's abandoned comrade, they learned that the crystal from March's shoulder and the one that had split in Zergath's neck were souvenirs of an infelicitous heist. March and Oma, as members of a Hollow Guard team, were asked to retrieve these crystals from a warehouse in Blackpool.
I don't know what that was, but Zergath has never been able to do any of those things ever.
Asked you to steal them, and where did you steal them from?
Air tended to keep things to himself.
They're really bad dudes. But they're part of this, thieves community. They call it Hollow Guard. Have you ever heard of it?
With no clear sense of direction and a feeling of distrust and worry, the party made camp in the basement of the abandoned bakery. During the watch, Flynn got a special message in the same special language tattooed on his arm. It proved to be from an old, let's call him a rival, from the Ironlight Collective.
As you sort of move out of the front door, in front of you, all of a sudden you see from above you, dropping down to the ground, you see a half-orc. A half-orc with a scar across his face and a chipped tooth. And as he lands on the ground, this dude is big and beefy. As he lands on the ground, you can feel the vibration in the ground. But as he makes contact, it is completely silent.
Hey, Sorikal.
Hello. It looks to me like you have built some sort of trust with these fugitives. So I say, you lure them back to the Iron Light, and we can ambush them. How does that sound?
No.
What do you mean, no?
They're my friends.
Nervous and conflicted, Flynn kept his conversation with Zorkal to himself.
How did the outside look? Did you see anything?
No. No, I don't go in the corner, though. I peed over there.
You peed inside the building?
Yeah, I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to,
Oh, Flynn.
But after pulling on a series of loose threads, Kellik decided something was up. Flynn was lying.
Is there a saving throw corresponded with Zone of Truth?
There is, that's true.
Oh,
It's
what do I need?
Charisma 14 saving throw.
A 2. There is someone else tracking Alma and March.
Right.
And he was upstairs.
And he wrote this message here.
Yeah, it says come up.
Why didn't you tell me? We could be in danger right now.
Fretting in a wet, stinky basement, wary of friends and enemies, and humbled by their defeat at the hands of Zergath, Kellik turned to a higher, or lower, power for guidance. Not the cantrip, but like advice.
And as I do that, and as the ashes like dust up around my hand as I've smacked it down, I will whisper, Quid otra mentachum, and cast augury. I don't know much about you, but maybe you can just tell me something of what's to come. If we go to the Iron Light, will they help us? Will the outcome be good or bad?
You look down at these embers, and they sort of begin to glow this deep ember as if they're like sustaining themselves. They're not being put out or anything, but they're perfectly sustaining themselves. And they're not dying, and they're not bursting into an actual flame. Staying as embers, you take this to mean that this is a good outcome.
Kellik's ashes and whatever force lay behind them pointed him to the Iron Light Collective. Not only did Melleru Cardinal give them the pardon they had hoped for, but she also elucidated them on the true nature of the crystals.
You are sort of correct with possession, though possession usually means that it is of a creature not from this plane or some sort of other entity. These are what would be the equivalent of prison crystals.
Do you think all crystals have prisons in them? Like, do you think your crystal, and I start looking at his pink crystal on his staff, do you think your crystal has people in it?
There are all sorts of powers crystals can possess. This one, in particular, came to me in a moment where I felt very lost, and now it's unfixed to the end of my staff.
Melleru tasked Flynn with seeking out these crystals, and the rest of the party, for their own reasons, opted in. The fastest route, they learned, would be to head back along the river. Back through Coldcrest. But first, Flynn had to get his, backpack thing with the, side holsters. It's like a backpack, but it's like the water bottle pocket on the side of your back. It took a day. In the meantime, they shopped for magical trinkets, inspected a burned-out building, and danced around an encounter with some of Kellik's unfinished business.
You immediately recognize this as Ka'a Malcolm. And then I said to him, "No, let her light shine upon you." And then the other two on either side of him, oh.
Why don't they want you in Addersfeld, Kellik?
Because the starlight doesn't shine on everyone. And it certainly doesn't shine on me.
You're very good at cryptic.
That's all I'll say on the matter, March.
All right, look, you're saying that these people, you're saying that if any of us are found with you're saying that this could involve death. Is that correct?
I don't know what they're capable of.
James never answered their follow-up visit and a note left by Olma. So, they ate some delicious pastries, meditated by the fire in the local inn, played pranks, read books, and told stories. In the morning they left to return to Coldcrest, hoping to slip by undiscovered. But on their horizon was a great battle on this, the border of Ondale and Caldor. Our heroes briefly considered their options.
This is war, Olma.
You want us to go in there?
We can't leave these people.
Why not?
Because when we left, this is not what was happening when we left.
I just don't see what I could do. I'm not a soldier.
The young one has a point. I, for one, am no fan of taking part in the squabbles of the civilizations of this world.
Kellik, isn't your friend there?
Paddle, paddle.
He's my
Jordan?
friend Flynn,
Don't you want to help him?
but it's a war. This is the nature of it. When I was stationed at Coldcrest, it was understood that we were in danger. This is the war front.
So let them fight it. Let them fight amongst themselves. When the dust settles, nature will take its course. The land will heal.
What happens if they take this spot, Shreya, and then they go into the Shattered Timberlands and take the spot that you grew up? They kill Far Lane. They take over that camp.
What?
And then they go to Addersfeld, and they do the same.
What interest would these bickering civilizations have in going into unkempt wilderness? The wilderness shall always remain.
Shreya, that wilderness is capped by Eldoria. The people here, and I gesture broadly to the ships, they don't want those woods to belong to Eldoria.
I'm gonna look at Olma and just say, these people helped to save us. We can't leave them.
A headstrong Flynn and guilt-stricken March, with the inclusion of Kellick's friend from work, Jarnan, won out, and the team joined in on the fight on the beach beset by cannons.
We're gonna blow up the path up here if we can get these explosives in line.
Oh, okay.
I will look over to Flynn like, okay,
That's an idea.
Our heroes are nothing if not diverse in interests, however. Kellik adopted prevention tactics and healing arts. Olma put out the flames of a nearby building and began to pull a body from the wreck. March waded into melee combat in a flurry of javelins and command words. Shreya diverted cannon operators and blew the ship's sails off course. And Flynn threw a blast charge onto the deck of the enemy ship.
Hey, March! I dodged 2 cannon shots, and there's a explosive on the ramp. Oh, hey, you're fighting people. Okay, and I bonus action summon my sword.
Okay,
Nice.
you now have your sword in your hand. As you're explaining that, you hear behind you
Here we go.
a huge explosion.
Yeah, I put this way.
With the battle won, but their hearts still in conflict, the team had to reconcile the significance of their presence on the warfront with their actual goals.
Hey, Flynn,
Yeah.
what makes you think that you blew up the right enemy?
They're trying to force people to do stuff, regardless of what they think. And I don't know if I have all the right answers, but, well, I kind of just made a decision. I know Jarnan, I know Kellik, and they're my friends. I know I don't know them for that long, but if this is the side they're fighting for, and this is the side that I know more,
Kellik said he didn't have a side.
I think he does.
Isn't there a world in which they feel like you're forcing them to believe your way? Isn't there a world where both sides feel the same way?
Possible.
And that they have a Flynn over there, and their Flynn also goes on suicide missions, and also thinks that he's doing the right thing, and he has a family?
Yeah, that's probable. I felt like I was making the right decision to save the people that I cared about in that moment.
But how do you feel about the people who aren't alive?
The enemy?
The people who aren't alive?
Sometimes you just gotta go with your gut.
I don't like your gut.
I myself have never had goodwill toward those of the dwarven race. But since I was a very young, tiny, probably fit in the palm of one of your hands, The dwarves have done nothing but mutilate the mountainsides of my ancestral home. I acted perhaps a little rashly, and only considered my associations with my past and how I took action against them. However, I understand that more often than not there are other purposes at play, and people who were raised differently can fight for any cause they believe in. Perhaps that's something we can consider before we jump into the fray the next time.
I do agree and disagree on both sides. I was once a soldier before, or rather, in that area. I didn't care for it. I don't appreciate the politics involved. But if there are people that someone has met or known that need to be helped, then if it's the right thing to do, then you got to do the right thing to do. And in the moment, it seemed the right thing to do.
Here's how I see things. The war is happening, and we can't stop that. We can't make Caldor and Andel again, Baldir, agree on anything. But my goal remains: save as much life as possible.
Resolute in their instinct that these beings once trapped in these crystals were a simpler evil to pursue, the team crossed into Caldor and hoofed it to Blackpool. The ruins of the warehouse Ulma definitely blew up were picked clean, but as the party sifted through the rubble, Flynn turned to the aid of an old dwarven man who turned out to be a fortune teller.
Ah, yes, your parents. Nora and Baudry, if I'm not mistaken.
What? Yeah, how do you know their names?
I know a lot of people.
How's Kaylin doing? My friend from... Well, I mean, she's from the Iron Light, but yeah. I didn't see her the last time I went to the castle, and I'm curious if she's doing okay.
I can see the concern in your eyes. I know that she is on her way back to the Iron Light right now.
Oh.
She actually, as we speak, is holding the head of a manticore and is on her way back to the Iron Light.
Man, that's so cool. Of course she is. She's so good at this. And of course, her mom's going to be super proud about it, but
Oh, of course.
I'm going to go check up with my friends, see if they found anything. Not that they're looking for anything or anything, but,
Oh, of course, they're not looking for anything.
And he gives you another wink.
Do you know? Nah, never mind. All right. Well, I'll see you around.
I do know. I shouldn't say, but I do. I do know. You should check at the tavern down the street.
With some semblance of a clue, Flynn departed happily. Kellik, however, had a decidedly different encounter with the mystic.
And you just hear beyond this fog, you hear a voice that says,
Kellik, I would appreciate you stepping out of my home.
And you feel this sort of shift in gravity as you're not walking, but your entire body is pushed out of this home into the doorway, and your feet slide across the wooden floor as you are now standing outside on the porch once more.
Standing nobis. I light my bandage up on my arm, and I'll try to hold it to the fog, to the shroud.
You cast that spell, and you feel a gust of wind emanate from inside the house, and the arm that just lit up is completely extinguished, and you hear a booming voice from inside of the house, and it says,
"That magic has no place here."
Who are you, old man? What is this?
Your welcome has been worn out.
And he snaps his fingers, and the door to the home shuts.
I'll have answers from you!
The door slams in your face.
Spooky. Following the dwarf's advice and dodging a pair of hollow guard scallywags, they headed to the nearest inn and met Angela, a local barkeep whose two sons had also become adventurers. Through her equally questionable cooking and business sense, the party acquired a map to a second warehouse and a good night's rest. They departed in the morning, down the road Angela had indicated. The problem was, the road quickly dissipated into deep, muddy swampland. Slogging through the muck and spotting a hooded creeper off in the distance, the gang came upon a magic staff encircled by glowing rings. the rings descended into the mud, coercing its goopy state into more rigid forms. Those of the varied loved ones of our heroes. One of them took the shape of Farlane to torment Shreya, another a drow woman, which probably has something to do with Kellik. For Olma, an old human man. Flynn, a relative of Melleru Cardinal, and for March, her spitting image, but many years younger.
As these forms solidify in the mud, they begin to lunge towards you, and I'm going to have you guys all roll initiative.
Oh,
Man. Oh boy.
Assessing that these beings were not to be talked down, our heroes set to work. Olma and Shreya let loose fiery might. March sundered the earth with her hammer, and Kellik and Flynn worked out a little halfling juggernaut routine.
Next up, Kellik.
So, DM. The spell Create or Destroy Water says 10 gallons of water in an open container within range.
I was hoping you did not have this spell prepared.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead and do it. So, as you see, all of the moisture is just pulled and zapped out of them. They sort of shrink in size a little bit, and their exterior just becomes completely hardened and withered. They have the pretty much they're incapacitated for the next round. They cannot do anything.
Nice.
And their AC has been reduced to 0.
So I'm going to move down, I'm going to take a 5 feet back, and then I'm just going to basically run at this one and try and push it into the other one to make them collide and hopefully break. I don't know what you want me to roll for that, but...
I'm gonna have you roll an athletics check.
Yay, I have a negative to that. Natural 20.
What? No way.
Hey,
man.
Natural
There we
20. So you take a stance, you dig your back foot in, and you get your arms ready, and you push off, and you sprint, and you shoulder check right into this first mud creature. It doesn't even react as it shatters like glass.
Yes.
And as you push through, the first one was a lot easier than you thought. Like that was pretty easy to get through. And you sort of trip, and as you realize, oh, you're still going. And you crash right into the second one as both of them are completely obliterated.
Oh my god.
The second one is going to take a swing at Shreya. Since it's right there.
Oh boy. Hilduria, give me strength.
That's a 21 to hit.
Oh no. Yeah, that hits.
That is going to be 4 points of bludgeoning damage.
That takes me down to 1 hit point.
Banged and bruised by the fictal fists of their bespattered bushwhackers, the adventurers approached the hooded figure that had been watching from afar. Was it a healer? An ally? A lost Farlane wandering in the wastes? No. It was yet another threat. A smooth-talking half-orc in pursuit of the bounty on our heroes, and the residents of the crystals in their possession.
I'm sorry, I have been very rude. My name is Drek. I believe I know who all of you are. Please make yourselves comfortable. That must have been a terrible fight.
We're fine.
Must have taken a lot out of
We're fine, Track.
My question to you is basically whether you would prefer to be returned to Hollowguard, dead or alive. And I believe at this point, that offer extends to the Drow, the Halfling, and the Aarakocra at this point as well.
But unlike his sodden earthy counterparts, this threat was eager to share.
If you weren't, much of a team to begin with, why such lengths to retrieve them?
Well, I have been told that some of the members of my crew were very valuable to sort of a religious sect up north. I don't know who they were, but they were sort of seemed to be in a cult of some sort. They were always praying and talking about the end of times and the starting of new things and a rebirth, and they just kept chanting about red wolves and things of that sort. And that's where we're going to end today's session.
Red.
We're going to call it right there.
What?
What connection lies between the red wolf and the prison crystals? How did a staff in the swamp sort out the most painful effigies for our heroes to confront? Will they live to find out? Or will they get super-duper murdered by this gentleman bounty hunter? Find out next time on Venture Forth.